What's up? This is Peng from LabVIEW by Example, and thank you for joining me. Today I'm going to introduce you to the array data structure in LabVIEW. All right, let's imagine that you need to write a program to simulate a car race. You've got 4 cars, a yellow, blue, red, and green, and you've got to provide the position of each car at these spots: turn 1, turn 2, turn 3, and the finish. Okay, you could just create 4 variables to hold the names of each of these cars. So here is some pseudocode for that. I'm just setting 4 variables to the names of the cars. Then you could set the position of each car at each spot. So for example, at turn 1, just set the various values to those variables. Okay, that looks good, but as you think about it a little bit more, the code would begin to get pretty hairy pretty fast. Since each car has its own variable name, you'll have to reference each car's variable name everywhere in your code. So let's say that you'll want to randomly pick the position of each car at each spot. So the pseudocode is going to look like this. So in each calculation of the first, second, third, and last, you're going to have to give it a bunch of variable names. So having a lot of variables and having to juggle all these names increases complexity, which is a big sign that the code is headed out of control. And when you do this in LabVIEW, what happens is that you'll have a big, huge nest of wires crisscrossing everywhere on the block diagram. Just imagine having to throw in a 5th or 6th car, and you're going to have a lot of work on your hands. So this is where arrays can come to the rescue. An array data structure, or simply an array, is a data structure consisting of a collection of elements, which are values or variables, each identified by at least one array index or key. So in this car race example, instead of referencing several variables, the code references one variable and uses an index to pick out which car to work with. So doing this will simplify your code, which is always a good thing. Okay, so before I jump into LabVIEW, let's take a look at one of today's most popular programming languages, Python, and what array features it offers. So just FYI, there's no native array data structure in Python, just the Python list, but this will work for this demo. So I'm going to open up idle, which is the development environment for Python, and I can create a string array by declaring a variable and then open bracket. So let's do cars, open bracket, yellow, blue, red, and green, close bracket. And then I can print out the contents by just saying cars. Okay. So array indexes start from 0, and I can index each one. So if I want the 0th, which is the first, do that, and say second index gives me the 3rd element in the array. One of the more important functions that you always want to have is knowing the length of your array. So that is with length. Okay, so there's 4. You can use the pen keyword to add to your array. Okay, and you can always delete items from the array like so. Okay, so that takes out the blue, which is what was at index 1, and you can assign new values to the elements like so. Okay, and you can use this syntax to get all the items in your array. Oops. So in Python, there are plenty of other array methods and a lot of tricks, but I'm not going to even try to show them all here. The point is that with an array, you can use code using a single variable. So I'm just running cars each time and using the index, and I'm dealing with that whole collection. So this is one of those coding superpowers that you always want to take advantage of. All right, so let's jump into LabVIEW. And I have a new array up. So to make this as painless as possible, I'm going to work with arrays on the block diagram and save discussions about front panel array controls and indicators for another video. So to create an array constant, I can right click on the block diagram, select array and array constant. And what you have is just a shell that needs to be filled in with some data type. So I want to stick with a string to make this a string array. So when I drag a string constant, the entire array adapts to that string. So let me drop down a string constant. Okay, I could have just dragged it in from there, or I can just drag an existing one into there. Okay, so that entire array adapted to that data type. So the entire thing turned pink to match whatever the string to match that data type. So right now I've got an empty string or empty array. So one way to tell that is by calling the array size function. So if I do array size, okay, and then I create an indicator. So let's just rename this guy. Zero. Okay. So one thing to note is the way that you tell if a wire is an array or a regular scalar value. So if I drop down another string, let's bring this down, and then just wire that up to an indicator, so you'll see the difference in the wire. You see that the array wire is a little bit thicker than a regular string wire. So the thickness tells you if it's an array or not. Okay, just a good thing to keep in mind. All right, so in this array, the number you see here is the index of the element shown directly to the right of that number. So the default is 0. So what you're seeing right now is the first element in the array. And just remember that array indices are 0 based. So what we can do is simply type into the array and they'll add elements to the array. So I'll double click in here and type yellow. Okay. And the reason why it's not expanding is you can do that, size text. So if I run, check my array size, it is 1 element. Okay. So I can change this element index to 1. It's empty right now. Then I'll type the second element, which was blue. Okay. And if I run again, so I have 2 elements in the array. Okay, so you could go on and on and on and add more elements this way, but the array constant doesn't have to show just one element at a time, this guy. So to show more than one element, move your cursor to the edge of the array. Okay, so if I move my cursor to the edge of the array, I get this cursor icon that allows me to resize this. So if I expand to the right, well, let me move this down a little bit. I can expand this array as many elements as I want, even though the array only has 2 elements, I can make it as big as I want. So I can now add a third element here. Okay. And hit run. There's 3. And then there. 4 elements. Okay. So the which way that you show this 1D array doesn't matter. So if you don't like it in a horizontal appearance, you can always change it back to vertical. Oops. So that's another thing you have to be careful of. If you don't move your cursor in the right spot, you'll change the size of each string. So instead of changing the size of the array, so you want to take these big handles, okay, and I want to make it look vertical now, like so, okay, and it's the same array. The data doesn't change, okay. So what happens when I type a value far down the array? So let's say I add one at index 5. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's do 6. Okay. So let's pink here. So how many are in the array? So there's 7 elements now. Okay. So what happened was that LabVIEW added 2 empty strings between your new element and the last element that was in the array. You can tell the difference between an empty string and an empty element by how they look. It's pretty subtle. So you can see the empty element is dimmed, but an empty string, an empty string's value is not dimmed out. Okay. So let's index the array with array index array. So the way you use that is there, give that an index 0, and let's just show the element. Run. Okay. All right, so the build array function, which is here, allows you to add elements to the array. So wire the array to a terminal. Okay. And you can expand the build array function to expose another terminal. Okay. I can add another string here. Okay. And they'll add it to that array. So to display this, what I want to use is a certain function called array to spreadsheet function. Okay, so this array to spreadsheet function allows me to view the contents of this array without having to deal with the array indicator, which I want to show later. So this allows you to pass in an array, and I'll just spit out a string, okay, that I can use to show the elements, and I want to show it the same kind of way that the Python example showed it. So I want to put commas in between. Okay, and since my array is a string data type, I want to give this guy a %s to tell it that yes, it's a string. Okay, and if I run, okay, so you have the elements there, and you see this those empty strings in between. Okay. The way that you wire the build array function matters. So I can append to the beginning of the array by swapping the inputs, like so. Bring that to the top, beginning. And now you have purple in the very beginning. Okay. And you can even add another array. So when you do this, check out what happens to the thickness of this array. Okay, so say I create another array constant here. And let's put that. Okay. Let's delete that. Okay. As you can tell, this thickness of this wire here is a little bit bigger than the thickness of this wire. So that what that means is that now you have a 2D array. Okay, so what occurred was that the default behavior of this build array function is to make the array size up to the next dimension. So if I run this, see now you have 2 rows and 7 columns, okay, which is a 2D array. Okay, so I'll go through this in another video, but just to keep this to keep it as a 1D array, what you need to do is right click on this build array function and say concatenate inputs. And when I do that, now you have these 2 colors in the beginning and then the rest, and it's still a 1D array. Okay. There's a delete function. To delete from the array, you can specify what index and how many elements to delete. So there's a delete from array here. So say I want to delete, let's delete those empty strings 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So I want to delete 2 from index 4 and copy that and show that on the front as well. Okay, so now those 2 empty strings are gone. Okay, so if I place down a for loop and wire it in an array, you'll see this. So I put down an array, a for loop, and then I wire it in. So you can see here, this tunnel has an icon showing 2 brackets. So this means that on every iteration of this for loop, each element of this array, starting from the 0th element, will be available at this tunnel. So this is similar to what I did in the Python example with the for in statement. So in this example, let's just show a dialog of each element. Okay, so if I run yellow, blue, red, green, blank, blank, pink. Done. Okay. Cool. There's plenty of more functions inside the array option of LabVIEW, but I think this is a good place to stop for now. I'll make sure to pump out some more videos on arrays, but and then I'll definitely try to code something in LabVIEW showing you that car array solution with and without arrays. So stay tuned. All right, congrats. Now you know how to build and manipulate arrays on the block diagram in LabVIEW. Well, at least for string types. But these concepts pretty much apply to any other data type, integers, booleans, floats. So go out and play around with it and let me know if you have any questions. Please, if you like this video, add your likes below and don't forget to subscribe to this channel. If you need more LabVIEW how-to articles, go to LabViewByExample.com. LabViewByExample.com. And remember, you too can be LabVIEW Awesome. Thanks for watching. Next time. Until next time.